Yes, my viewers and subscribers, back with another video, you know. Yeah, man, another video here, them find a giant portal. You know, a giant portal. Yeah, man. So, I want to know if you just check out that one here, and, you know, more video they nice still, but you know, can't check it out still, you know, because good video them still, you know, them I tell you what things were happening still, you know, in the world and things. So, I want to know, guys, just check it out and just let me know what you guys think in the comment section, alright?
Giant portal for the local principalities. Now, if you saw my last video, you know about the stones and what I mentioned about the rituals. Look what it's called. Transcending. Come on, guys. Really? If you can't, I don't even, do I have to explain this? Now, I actually came here before and I prayed standing here. I'm gonna show you. Right there. And you know what happened? My feet started burning when I saw, because I was praying against this thing. But look, watch this. Look at this. Look at these hands. Fallen ones.
The reason many of you are saying this guy is wrong, because one, you don't read your Bible, and two, you are blinded by the truth. I pray the Lord.
In other words, if he doesn't realize that the true reality in which he lives is the present moment now. For example, the animal probably doesn't concern itself very much with problems of future disease, death, or starvation and things of that kind. If an animal sees another dead animal lying around, I don't suppose he thinks to himself, well, one day that's going to happen to me. Rather, he just sees a dead animal, sniffs it, sees whether it's good to eat, and wanders away. But for human beings, it's entirely different, because we actually spend most of our time and a great deal of our emotional energy living in time which is not here, living in an elsewhere which is not concretely real. So much so that although we may be quite comfortable and happy in our present circumstances, if there is not a guarantee, not a promise, of a good time coming tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, we are at once unhappy, even in the midst of pleasure and affluence.
Twitter's contact with FBI was constant and pervasive, as if it were a subsidiary. Now, I want to better understand why he would suggest that. Mr. Roth, while at Twitter, how many meetings did you have with the FBI?
I couldn't say for sure, but I would
More
say
than 10?
That's a
More than
reasonable
20?
estimate. I couldn't say for sure.
More than 50?
That seems a bit high.
Many meetings with the FBI. Well, we know how many FBI agents worked at Twitter while you were there?
I don't believe any active FBI agents.
Former FBI agents. How many worked there while you were there?
I'm aware of perhaps 2.
Well, we know of at least 9 because they started the BU group chat, BU for Bureau. Now, Mr. Roth, did the FBI ever ask you to share information like users' communication data without going through proper legal channels?
No, they did not, and I would have refused if they had.
That's correct. I see that you denied Agent Chan's request for access to Twitter's data feed. What's sick isn't that you would deny it, it's that the FBI would even ask you for the private data of American citizens without going through legal channels of the law. Now, I want to remind you, Mr. Roth, that you are under oath. Did the FBI ever ask you to do anything that was illegal or questionably legal?
I'm not a lawyer, but certainly not to the best of my recollection or knowledge.
Now, from the hearing that I've been a part of today, it's almost impossible to tell where the FBI ends and where Twitter begins. We have Mr. Baker here, a former FBI agent, and there seems to be a revolving door between the FBI and Twitter itself. Even Mr. Baker said that there was no collusion with the federal government and Twitter, but Mr. Baker, that's you. You are the collusion between the federal government and the FBI. And now with it, this is such a problem because we're seeing censorship all over. Mr. Roth, Ms. Gaddy, did either of you approve the shadow banning of my account at Lauren Boebert? Yes or no?
No, I did not.
Not to the best of my recollection.
Well, let me refresh your memory, because on March 12th, 2021, and Mr. Roth, I know you looked at it because Fascist Twitter 1.0 had a public interest exceptions policy, which means for members of Congress to be shadow banned, it had to go before you, Mr. Roth. So I'll ask again, did you shadow ban my account? Yes or no?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
So the answer is, Mr. Roth, yes, you did. I found out last night from Twitter staff that you suppressed my account for this tweet. It's a freaking joke about Hillary Clinton being angry that she couldn't rig her election. It's a joke. But in response, being the sinister overlords that you all are, you placed a 90-day account filter so I could not be found. And now we see here that Twitter staff said the visibility filter on my account excluded me from top searches, prevented notifications for non-followers, and much more. This is considered an aggressive visibility filter. You silenced members of Congress from communicating with their constituents. You silenced me from communicating with the American people over a freaking joke. Now, who the hell do you think that you are? Election interference? Yeah, I would say that that was taking place because of you four sitting here. The Hunter Biden laptop story was suppressed. A sitting member of Congress was suppressed. A sitting president was banned from Twitter. You know, I bet that Putin is sitting in the Kremlin wishing he had as much election interference as you four here today. We've heard about threats to democracy. Well, what about shutting down a duly elected member of Congress? This is fundamental to our nation's governance, and you all attacked that very foundation. 230 protections? Well, those are for publishers, not for editors. And it's clear you were not acting as publishers, you were acting as editors. And Mr. Chairman, I think it's far past time that we remove 230 protections for big tech platforms who are abusing this protection. And let me just say, I'm not angry for myself. I'm not angry because I was silenced. I can reach out to Elon and to his staff, and I can see what's happened. And I can sit here today and hold you all in account. I am angry for the millions of Americans who were silenced because of your decisions, because of your actions, because of your collusion with the federal government. They can't reach out to Elon. They can't sit here today and hold you into account. We don't know where the FBI ends and Twitter begins. But I do want to thank
Mr.
Elon
Chairman, we're
Musk
over
for
17
firing
seconds now.
you four and saving free speech and even Twitter.
If you read down the EU's anti-money laundering blacklist, one of the things that immediately strikes you is that not one of the countries on the list is majority white, and not one of them is what we would call the West, because this blacklist is biased and inconsistent and has a lot more to do about lobbying power than a genuine assessment of risk. Now, Vanuatu, one of the world's poorest countries, is on the list. Yet the EU says that the criteria for inclusion is about the economic relevance of the third country jurisdiction for the EU and the systemic impact on the integrity of our financial systems. Seriously? Vanuatu, with a GDP of 9% of Greece's, is a threat to our financial integrity? Is it not really the fact that we're picking countries that can't kick us back? Nothing being said about the Netherlands, nothing about Ireland, nothing about the US, nothing about the UAE, which is currently leaning on the EU to keep it off the blacklist, and they'll probably succeed because we want their oil, just as the Qataris would have succeeded if they'd only just stuck to bribing us with oil.
Good afternoon or good morning, distinguished members and panelists of the citizen hearing on unidentified flying objects, UFOs. My name is Jose Antonio Neus. I was born in this country, but my family was from Chile. My father worked for several years in the United Nations in the early formative years of this international body. The subject of UFOs is a contentious one where many different views and attitudes coexist. Sometimes in a friendly manner, sometimes in a more acrimonious way. But there is no doubt in my mind that there is at least one conclusion we can and should all agree. UFOs are definitely a global phenomenon. They're sighted visually, on film, and on radar, reported, investigated sometimes officially, sometimes by private organizations, and covered by both the local and international media all over the world. It doesn't really matter what is the culture, language, religion, ethnic origin, and level of development and technological capabilities of a country. UFOs have been reported everywhere, from Alaska to Chile and Argentina in the Americas, all over Europe, Asia, the Middle East, Africa, Australia, and the oceans. There are well-documented cases in many parts of the world, including Brazil, France, Iran, Russia, Zimbabwe, New Zealand, and many other countries. Regardless of what turns out to be the final origin of this mystery, it has a great potential of unifying the different and often divided parts of our world. The reason is simple. No matter how big our ideological, religious, or cultural differences are, we would all tend to unite in the face of an unknown
think that they could weaponize our information like that, right?
And I find it funny all of a sudden America's talking about Russia, 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 when you sold our information to the national bankers. You've been spying on us since 9/11 with the Patriot Act. The hell are you talking about? See, I don't get into that nonsense. Russia, calm down. Let's go back over here. America, what the hell are you doing? What have you been doing? You've been spying on us with all social media platforms since the very first one called 6 Degrees. That's before MySpace, before PhotoBucket was added to MySpace, before Facebook, before Instagram, before all of those. America sold the access to the minds of the people to vested interest groups, private corporations, the military, the CIA, and the FBI, so that we could be investigated in a way where we would accept it, infiltrated in a way where we would accept it. You pointing to Russia? Hold on. When it comes to America, I'm looking at what you have done to the people here. They always want to have us look at some boogeyman out there. You the boogeyman. Your policies that have been very detrimental to the freedoms of the American people, white, black, and everyone all in between. We have violated all of the constitutional rights of the people on a consistent basis and saying it is for the greater good.